Hello and welcome back. My name is Abhilash. You are watching Selenium Express, and let's get started with one of the very important module of Spring Framework. Again, I'm saying it a module is a concept. The concept name is transaction management. And as you guys all knows, when it comes to Spring, we have to deal with annotation called @transactional. But this annotation is not that simple what it looks like. There are a lot of stuffs which is sprinkled into this annotation. And in this series of videos, we're gonna be going deeper and deeper, step by step, lesson by lesson, and we will start understanding how the transaction management is getting into the action in Spring Framework, how Spring is managing it, what are the different components, like what is transaction manager, what is propagation label, what is platform manager, what is the isolation label, in which scenarios you have to roll back the transaction, in which scenario you don't have to roll back the transaction, in which scenario the default rollback will work, in which scenario the default rollback will not work. Okay, everything will go step by step and start looking into this concept, in a much deeper way. But in this lesson, we will get started with our project. We'll set up our project. We'll set up a raw Spring project so that you will understand what are the components you actually need to set up and what are the components that in Spring Boot, what will be automatically configured for you. This is one of the difference that you really need to know because you are learning the transaction management in detail. So we will be setting up a project. We will be start talking to our database. We'll try to fetch in some data. We'll try to insert some data, but all under a transaction. And let's see that and let's explore that what are the different scenarios that we have to take here. And one more thing. Guys, this lesson, I will not be going so in depth. Anyhow, you will be getting everything that you need to understand in this particular video about the transactional annotation. But still, I'll say this is basic. This is not beyond basic. The beyond basic will start from the next lesson and use this video, okay, to set up the project, to get your understanding clear about the transactional. And from the next video, we'll start digging deeper. I hope you're excited because I'm pretty much excited. So let's get started. Let's start building a project and let's try understanding this annotation from the scratch, step by step. See you in the video. So let's start by creating a new Java project. Let me create a new Maven project. So new project, and let's go for a Maven project. I'll give the project name as, okay, let me go with a quick start. No need to create any web project. And I'll go with com.seleniumexpress.trans as my group ID. Artifact ID will be, let's say, Spring transactional 1. And once my project is created, let me go to my pom.xml. I want to add some dependencies here. Okay, so first of all, I will go here and add Spring context. So let me go over here, 5.3. Let me take the latest version and paste it over here. And I want to add Spring JDBC here because obviously I want to work with some transactional. I need to do some database operation. So far, you guys know Spring JDBC, Hibernate, JPA, Spring Data JPA. Maybe a few of you know about MyBTs as well. So it's same for every kind of API, every kind of frameworks, right? So I'll go for Spring JDBC for simplicity right now, 5.3.18. Let me just copy and paste it. We just need something to insert some data inside the database. So I'll be using the JDBC API. And if you remember, this is going to get me the the driver manager data source, the JDBC dependency will pull in the Spring Spring dependency and it is going to make a driver available for it's a ready-made driver like driver manager data source, which can be used as my data source, if you guys remember. And I'll go for a MySQL connector because I want to connect to my MySQL, and I'm gonna do all my saving, fetching operations right there. And I want my transactions, I want them to be under the same transaction, different transaction. I want to do some testing, so I'm gonna be keeping the connector jar to connect to my database. And what else I need? I need the Spring AOP jar, because as I have told you guys in the last session, I want to show you what is happening behind the scene. And if you got AOP in the class path, it will be pretty much easy for you to see, to experience what is happening behind the scene. So okay, maybe I will add it right now, and later we'll be just using it. Okay, so later we won't be bothering setting up the project. So Spring AOP you can add. So I will go to the latest version, and I will keep it over here because I'll be working with AOP a little bit later. And also let me add Spring Aspect. Okay, it is the AOP jar. What do we call that? Spring Aspect. What do we call that? Aspect Spring? Okay, whatever. Okay, let's ignore it for now. Whenever we need that, we'll be adding it. So we got context, JDBC, MySQL connector, and Spring AOP present in our class path. I think I'm pretty much happy with this. I will save it. So my project dependencies are ready right now. And now I can straight away go for the source main Java project. And let me start creating a new package or new class directly. And this is going to be a repository class. And in the repository, what we'll be doing will be actually try to write some save logic to our database. Maybe I'll go to my database first, and I'll start creating a table here. Maybe I'll create a new schema, and I'll give the schema name as, let's say, product. Okay, product test. Maybe I'll just, let's say, products or something I'll give. Let me give product new. Okay, Control A, Control C. Apply, close. This is going to be a schema that I need to copy paste to my workspace. I'll be doing that later. But before that, in this product schema, where is that product schema? Can I do a refresh? And can I go down? Can I see my products new schema right here in the table? Let me create a new table. And this is going to be, let's say, a product table. And I will give you a couple of columns here to your product table. First is going to be ID. Next one will be, let's say, name of the product. The first one will be the primary key. And let me just change this bar chart to 455 just to be in the safer side, so that we won't be getting any exception while we'll be inserting any product name there. Perfect. So we got a product table right now. And if I'm going to be expanding this, I got a product table. Do a refresh. Fine, it's there. And now I will be creating a repository. So maybe I'll just create a package called repo. Maybe I'll say repo, and I will just give a class here. Let's say product repo, and I'll do a finish. Okay. And let me directly create a class. My main intention here is to deal with the transaction and the transactional stuff, and along with the related contents, right? I'm not following any pattern here. So, don't ask me that, Abhilash, why don't you create an interface, and why don't you put your, saving, fetching, and all those methods right there? Because, let's ignore it for now. I'm going to be annotating this class with @repository so that it will be picked for automatic component scanning. And here I'll be creating a method, let's say public void save product, right? And here I will be basically try to write some logic in order to save a product to the database. Maybe here I will do one thing. In order to save a product, I need to create a query. So I'll do string SQL, and I'll write a query here. And let's say the query is going to be a insert query. So I'll be writing insert maybe I'll write all caps, insert into product. What is the table name? It's product, right? And then the values, okay, values, and primary key, let me add it by myself, and let's say values are going to be values will be fetching, right? Values will be, let's say, question mark, comma, question mark. Now when we will be adding this product, we need a JDBC template. So I will be writing JDBC template, okay, and JDBC template, and I will make it a private variable, and I will make it auto-word. I need this JDBC template API in order to execute this SQL, if you guys remember from your Spring JDBC lesson. So I'll be doing JDBC template dot update here, and I will be choosing this method, and I'll be passing in my SQL, and then I need to pass in this question mark value, which will go for the ID and the I think this is the product name. And let's say this value will get from a product object that will be passed from the client, and I need to create a product class. Of course, this class does not exist, and I'm going to be putting it inside the DTO package. So I'll say DTO, and I will do a finish. So now inside the product, I will have the couple of columns here. Let's say private int ID and private string name, right? These are the couple of columns that I have. I'm using the exact same name as my database. Okay, you can keep different names, and you know how to fetch the data using different name while using the row mapper and the other concept. I don't want to get into those things. I got the sessions available. If you're taking the paid course, if you're taking the free course, you also get the things available in YouTube for the same thing, right? So maybe, here the name, the columns are right here. Perfect. So now the next thing here is that I will be creating the getter and setter for this couple of fields, and do a control-1, create getter and setter for this couple of fields. Looking good. Now I'll go over here, and now this is not giving me any problem. I just need to fetch my paste the data from the product. So product dot get ID, this is going to be an integer, and one more thing I need is product dot get name. These are the couple of things that I want to fetch from my product object, and I need to make sure that this data will go to the respective question mark that we have inside the insert query. And the next thing that I'll be doing, I'll be wrapping them off inside an array, and obviously this is an integer, this is a string, so that I'll be putting them inside an object array. So object array args, I can say, and equal to, and there we go. Now I can keep the args right here inside the arguments, and the SQL query will execute with help of this arguments here. Okay, so my repository is ready, and we have written some kind of a save method which is going to help me to save a product to my database. I hope it's making sense, but this thing will not work because we are not using Spring Boot here, and the JDBC template will not be automatically configured. Not only the JDBC template, now here you are not using Spring Boot, so the data source is also not going to be configured. The transaction manager is also not going to be configured. So what the heck is transaction manager? So if you want to insert 10,000 record, and imagine between the middle, after inserting 5,000 records, imagine some exception occurs, right? And you want all your previously inserted records need to be rolled back. And for that you need transaction, right? As I have told you before. And to create transaction, to commit transaction, to roll back a certain transaction, you need a manager. Okay, that's what we call a transaction manager. So all those things we need to set off with our 10 little fingers, because we don't have Spring Boot here, right? So we have to do all these things by myself. So let's go ahead and do that. So we will be creating a new class again, and we will be keeping this here. Maybe I'll be keeping this here inside a let's say config package, and my class name will be Spring. Let's say my let's say transaction config, or let's say product config. Okay, this will be a valid name. Product config. Use the housekeeping work like add configuration. Sorry, not add configurable. Add configuration. Make sure that this is a configuration file where you'll be setting up the beans. You need to have the component scan, and if I'll be writing like this, that means wherever this particular class is, from there on, the component scanning will automatically happen. Like, this class is right now, do a link to editor where the class is right now. The class is right now here inside the config. So, only this package, this package and the sub package of this guy will be scanned. But right now, my structure is a little bit of different. So all my packages start with com. So I want to scan all the packages, not only the root package and the sub packages. So I will be doing one thing. I'll be making it a com here. So all the packages which starts from com will be scanned right here. So cool. So this things is also done. The next thing will be component scan, and the next thing will be maybe with this much things we can proceed right now. Okay, configuration and component scan. Now let's first create a object for this guy called JDBC template, because right now this guy is null, right? We need to initialize this guy, and the bean for this we need to create here. So we can just go here and create a public JDBC template return. This is going to be the method is going to return this one. So I'll say JDBC template, and this one is going to return me a new JDBC template, which is going to take a data source, because the JDBC template internally will initialize the data source and will create the connection for you, if you do remember. So right now this is going to be a bean, but as I have told you, the JDBC template is taking a data source. Okay, it's taking a data source, so we need to create a data source first. So I will go here and create a public data source, and this data source is basically the java.x.sql. So data source, and right now we need to return the new. We have the free class here called driver manager data source, because I have added the package for Spring JDBC, or the dependency for Spring JDBC, and I can use the driver manager data source. I can give the URL, username, and the password inside the inside the parameter, and this is going to work fine. So here the URL will go here, the username will go here. My username is root, and the password is, let's say, Abhilash. So Abhilash here, and the URL, let me copy from the connection string. So copy the JDBC connection string, go over there and paste it, and change it to, let's say, your schema, which is called product new. I believe this is your schema name, right? Go over there, product new is the schema. Let me make it a default schema, set as default schema. So this is my product table, okay, which is there inside the product new schema. Maybe I don't trust my spelling, I will put it over here. Okay, Control S. So my data source is ready, and my connection it will create by using all this information that I have given over here. Maybe I'll just break this line a little bit, so it it will be visible pretty much well. So let's do it like this. So yeah, there you go. So right now the data source is going to be a bean that I need to create, and this is the bean that I want to use it over here. So I can just do data source, and I can call it over here inside the JDBC template, and the JDBC template will use this data source information in order to manage the connection and to create the connection and in order to talk to the database, right? And the next important thing is going to be the transaction manager, because if you want to use the transactional annotation, you need to create a transaction manager. But before that, let's just use this much of information, and let's see that whether we are able to insert or execute this data. Right now this will be no longer be null, because we are going to auto-var the object, and that object we are creating in our configuration file. So the things will be automatically picked up, if you guys remember. Now in the product repo, things are looking good. I'll go for the service class right now. I'll create a service directly. So I'll just do a right click, new class, and directly let me create a service class. So dot service, and this one will be my product service, and in my product service I will basically gonna write a method called public void, and let's say save product, let's say save product, and the same method as the maybe I'll just give it a different name. Let's say save product info, okay, or something like this. And I'll be basically using my product repo here. So product repo, okay, product repo here, and I will be calling the API method that I have created to inject I'll be using product repo here and dot save product, and I will be saving my product information. And here I'll create a product, and right now I will, once the product is created, I'll be saving the product by using this method. And here I'm using the product repo, making it auto aware, and also I will mark it as service so that the scanning will happen for this one, and the dependency injection will be done for this one as well. So things are looking good. So now the next thing here is that I want to save a product, so I need to create one first. So maybe I'll just create a product here. Instead of creating one product, let me create 10 products so that it'll be good, right? So let me just have a for loop, okay, and inside the for loop I will do one thing. I want to save the product here, but I don't have any product, so let me create the product. So let me just execute this for loop for 10 times. So int I equal to 1, I less than equal to 10, or less than equal to 10, and I plus plus, right? So right now this loop will be executed for 10 times. So let me create a product, and I'll make sure to create 10 different products. So I'll be using this dynamic value to create the product. So I'll say product is equal to new product, and here I'm going to set some values. So product dot, maybe I'll do one thing, I'll move this line, I'll hit command and op, option op, okay, I'm going to move it to here before the for loop, and right here I'll do product dot set ID. I'm going to set it with I, so it will be 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. Each time the for loop will execute, it's going to set a new ID, and maybe or I can do it for 10 times, not a problem. Okay, I can create the product for 10 times, not a problem. Okay, so here I'm setting the ID and setting the name. Let's say product dot set name, and let's say test product, okay, and I'm gonna concatenate the I here. So it will be test product 1, test product 2, test product 3, like that, and I will be putting my product here. So looking good. So I got the service method right here, which is gonna run a for loop and gonna create 10 products and gonna insert 10 products right here by using the API method that I have created. So hopefully things are looking good here. The next thing that I'll be doing here is I will be going to my product, I think this is ready, right? I can just create I can just execute my service method that I have created right here. I will be executing this method, and in order to do that, I will be going to source main Java. I'll do a new, and I will do I'll create a new class, and I will put it inside a package called maybe I can put it inside. I think I don't need to create a class. I think I already have this app.java class. Let me utilize this one, and maybe what I can do inside the app class, let me just call the service method that I have created. And first thing that I need to do, I need to load my application context. So I will be doing configurable application context, which is the interface context is equal to new application context, new annotation config application context, and I want to create the application context with my configuration file that I have created some time before. and the configuration file is the product config file. So product config.class. So if you remember, this is the file that we have created that will initialize the bean and do the component scan and the variety of things for us. And I will be just doing that. And also I need to make sure that I'm closing the application context, do some housekeeping work for first. And you know, this is a standalone application. This is not a web application. So if you're going to write context.close, it will not close the application context. So maybe I also need to register the shutdown hook. So context.register shutdown hook also I'm going to be writing over here. So the close method will trigger. Okay. So things are looking good. The next thing that I'll be doing over here is that I will be calling my service method here. So I'll be doing context.getBean, and I want to get the bean for my service class. And my service class is right here. I'm gonna be taking my service class from here. We'll go over there and give the service class over here, make this piece small, and then you know, this is gonna return me a product service class. So product service dot class, and this is going to be handled right here. So I'll do assign statement to a new local variable, and this is going to be the product service bean. And now here I can just do product service. So product service dot you know, I can call my method, let's say save product info, and now this is going to save the product info right now. Okay, so now let me see whether the things are working, or you know, we are able to save 10 different products or not. So I can go to my app.java, do a right click, run as a Java application. Let's see that whether this one is working. So okay, we don't have anything, a log right there inside the product info. Maybe I could have given a log right here. Let's say sysout product inserted, let's say product saved or something like this, right? But I think I have already run this particular program. Let me go to the SQL workbench and check this out. So go to the product, do a save, and there are 10 products has already been inserted. Okay, so things are looking good so far. Tell me guys, so far you guys are good or not? You can hear some background noise. We got some festival here on, so you can just hear some, you know, loud noise from the there are some speaker that's just putting some music right there. Maybe if you guys are hearing, as I'm really sorry about it, but tell me that, you know, so far you guys are good, or like, you know, there is anything you need to ask me. Anyone? Just confirm me here, please. You guys are good with this much of things that I have done so far?
Yes, Abhilash.
Okay. Janvi?
Yes,
yeah. Okay, perfect. Anything disturbing, guys? You guys, like, you know, something is disturbing me, so I'm just asking you if it is disturbing you, because when I'm recording something or when I'm talking something, you know, if I hear some noise around me, I just got a little concerned. So yeah, just tell me that, like, you know, if you guys are understanding well or something you guys are missing. Okay, cool, perfect. So I'll just try to see if I can just you know, remove the music while I'll be putting this particular video in your repo. Okay, perfect. So actually one more thing is that I was actually thinking to give a transactional video for free in YouTube, but if there is some music going on behind me, I don't think if I can put it, because people will think that, you know, I'm using their music for free and they'll be put me a copyright strike for sure. And maybe, you know, we'll see. If the music is too loud, also it will be very difficult to put it into the Vimeo repository, because it's gonna complain that you are using some music which is copyrighted. So we'll see. All right, anyhow, so I think the things are good right now, but the problem here with all the things that we have done so far is absolutely fine. We are creating some product, we are saving the product, things are working good here, right? The product service, the things are working good. We are running a for loop and we are saving the product. Now the problem here is we are basically not maintaining any transaction. For an example, if I'll go to here, and remember, I'm gonna maybe I'll just remove all the records that I got over here. Maybe let me just delete everything. Right now I don't have anything in my product table, but now here is a problem, right? If I'll go over here, imagine there is some exception is occurring. Let's say if if I equal to 7, I'm throwing some exception, I equal to 7. Let's say I'm throwing a runtime exception. So throw a new runtime exception, and right here, this guy, just give me a minute, please. All right, thank you. Yeah, so right now, let's say if I'm writing I equal to 7 and I want to throw a runtime exception. So runtime exception, and I want to throw the runtime exception. Let's say there is some more error is occurring right in between. Some error occurred, right? Let's say in between the 7th product, right? When the 7th product we are inserting, there is some exception is occurring and something is going wrong. And in that case, what will happen? As we are not maintaining any transaction here on top of the product info or on top of the app, on top of the product service right here, we are not maintaining any transaction. There is no add transactional annotation here, or there is no add transactional annotation here on this service method, on this repository method. So right here, what will happen is the 7 record will be inserted, I believe, and the rest 3 will not be inserted. So you can see right now, products app, there are for 7 times, and there is some runtime exception is occurring over here when after the 7th record has been inserted. So if you're going to go to the service class, right here, the problem is occurring. So now if I'll go to the database here, and if I'll to run this particular code, you can see the 7 product has already been inserted, but the last 3 has not been inserted. And that's the problem here. Okay, because if you want to insert everything need to be inserted at once. And if you are not inserting something, you should not be inserting any. So this is I think this is the atomicity property in the ACID property. If you remember from your old college days, they are ACID. The atomicity stands for that, I believe. If you want to insert something, just insert as a whole. But if something is going wrong in between, you need to roll back everything. Imagine you are just inserting 1000 record. Imagine you are just transferring money from one account to another account. Imagine the money has been credited to one account, but it has not been deducted from your bank, right? So this thing need to be fall under one transaction. If the money is credited to the person B from the person A account, the money should be deducted. Imagine the money is credited to the person B, but the money has not been deducted from the person A. In that way, the bank itself will go bankrupt, right? So make sure the transaction is that much important. And in this scenario, we need to find a way to roll back the transaction. And you guys already know about this. For this, we will be using a add transactional annotation on top of this product info. So I'm writing a add transactional annotation right here on top of my service method right here. Cool. And also, if you want, you can also go to the product, say product method. If you want it to be fall under one transaction, or maybe you can also put a transactional annotation over here. I have told you in my previous lesson that inside your repository class, you don't need to maintain any transaction, because the repository methods you'll be calling in your service. Let's say inside my product service, I'm calling the repository method right here in this line number 27, and my service class method already got a transactional annotation. So this is where the transaction will start. Okay, this is where the transaction will start, and all these things will went part of a same transaction, and here the transaction will be committed and your connection will be closed. So it all will fall under one transaction. So there is no need to write a transactional annotation over here. Well, when I say this thing, there is a lot of things to understand here, and I will be coming into that particular part. But for now, imagine I have a transactional here, because let's say I don't know anything about a transactional. I only know the transactional that if I'll be writing, it will be putting all this code inside a same transaction, and if everything is going correct, then only the things will be committed, otherwise the things will be rolled back. So right now I put a transactional on the SAP product info method, which is my service method, right? Now tell me, what do you think? Now I got a transactional here inside my service and a transactional here inside my repo as well. So I got my transaction in place. So do you think right now what will happen if I'm going to run my application? Do you think, now let me go over there. First of all, let me just delete everything. So I will just delete all the record. Now tell me guys, if I will go ahead and execute this piece of code, do you think the rollback will happen? Because you know that 6 or 7 records, I think 6 record will be inserted, and during the 7th record we are throwing a runtime exception. So what do you think? So it will work or it will not work? Anyone? So
no, Abhilash.
It will work?
No.
Why, Lavanya?
Because transactional manager, we have to define a transaction manager.
Exactly.
And also there is one annotation that we have to add it on
Correct.
the config class.
Correct.
Enable
transactional management. Correct. So yeah, you have done good research, Lavanya. So now I will go over here and I'll go to the after Java. I'll do right click, run as Java application. And if I'm covering this topic, say thank you to Lavanya, because I have no intention to cover this topic right now. I would have talked something else, but yeah, we're talking about a transactional right now. Hopefully this is going to help not only Lavanya but other people also, and also it is going to help me because I'll be also refreshing my concept. Okay, anyhow, so now 7 records has been is showing that after the 7th record there are some problems happening over here. So I will go to the MySQL workbench, and even though we have marked our methods with a transactional, you can see there are 7 records has been inserted here, because in Spring MVC or in normal Spring application, you got to create a transactional manager or transaction manager which is going to maintain the transaction for you. And right now we don't have any transaction manager defined. If you would have used Spring Boot, it would have been done automatically by Spring, but right now you got to do it by yourself. And for that you need to go back to the config class. So where is my config? Right here. First thing you need to do, you need to write an annotation called enable transaction management. Okay, this is going to do a variety of setup. I'm going to come back to this, and the next thing that we'll be doing, I'll be setting up a transaction manager. So we got a transaction manager called platform transaction manager, this guy. And if you're going to see the platform transaction manager, it got 3 important method, I believe. One is rollback, one is commit, and one is I think 2 methods. I think there's to be 3. Oh, the close is not part of this one. Okay, commit and rollback. Okay. Oh, one more is the get transaction method. Okay, no close method here. So it got 3 important methods. I'm going to be coming back to this one. So what is the purpose of defining a platform transaction manager is, now we need to tell Spring like how it will be creating the transaction for us, because Spring will be maintaining the transaction for us, committing the transaction. It will use the get transaction method to get the transaction, committing the transaction, rolling back the transaction. So we got various of method, and this is an interface. You can also define or create your own custom transaction manager by extending to this one or this one. But here you can see we already got so many different type of transaction manager, like Hibernate transaction manager, JDBC transaction manager. So we got different types of transaction manager here. JPA transaction manager. I can use one of the existing transaction manager here called data source transaction manager. So let's go ahead and use this transaction manager for now, but later I'll be telling you how to create your own transaction manager here. So here right now all this method has been implemented by that particular class, and I can happily use that for now, not thinking about anything else. So I'll create another bean, and this is going to be my public transaction manager. So transaction manager, and I'll say transaction manager, and I will be doing a return new data source transaction manager. okay, and which is going to take a data source as a parameter, and of course that's going to be a bean. So I will do one thing, I'll just write data source here. I will be using the same data source that I have already created. So I'll write data source, okay, and there you go. And you can make it a bean here, okay, you can make it a bean, and you can make this guy AutoWhere, okay, like control enter, so that it will not delete this part, okay. So I can just give a space here, okay. So you can make it AutoWhere, so whatever the data source has been created right there, that bean, this bean will be injected to this one. And also if there is dependency like this, you don't need to write AutoWhere explicitly, because Spring will automatically detect the data source bean and will be injected this one, because this will be a bean. Whenever the transaction manager will be created, it will be needing the data source. So maybe I'll just reformat the name of this, and I'm going to be putting it right over here, okay. So now the data source is injected to the data source transaction manager, and it will create the platform to maintain our transaction, okay. So maybe for now we can think this much, okay. Later I'm going to be coming back to this more, and we will be talking more about the transaction manager. In fact, we will be seeing a lot of different things, how the committing is happen, how the rollback will happen, how the close will happen. These things also will go a deep dive in this, okay. So cool. So we have this much of things right now, and do a Control S right here. And now let me go to the app.java, and let me run the application. If you remember, this save product info right now got a transactional annotation here. And now if I'm gonna go to here, do a close of everything, I will go to my MySQL workbench, do a select all, and I will be deleting everything from here. And I will go to the STS, I'll do right click, run as, okay. Can I relaunch this one? Relaunch app4. It is going to run my code, okay. After 7th product, it is just throwing me runtime exception, but look at the exception that we are getting right now, okay. Our service method is right now throwing some exception, and you can see that previously the exception that we used to be get is a pretty general exception, but right now looks like Spring is controlling it, and looks like Spring is proxying our method. So what will happen in real time, I'll come back to this later in pretty much depth, but what will basically happen, guys, let's say you are putting a add transactional annotation on top of this save product info method. So you can imagine there is a class, there is an aspect. If you remember your AOP days, Spring has a, let's imagine it has a class called aspect, some aspect, let's say transaction aspect or something. I'm just giving you some idea. Imagine we got a imagine our method which got a transactional annotation will be proxied right now. This is a method which is going to be proxied, as we have discussed in the last session, proxy object. So that means there is another class which is going to have a call to this method. This will not be called directly whenever we are making a call from the client code here, right? We're making a call over here, but this will not be a direct call to our service class. Rather, a proxy is going to call this method instead. So what the proxy will do here, there will be some code. The proxy method will do one thing. It will start the transaction, okay, start the transaction, then call your method, and then commit the transaction, okay, and then close your connection, okay, for an example. So now all these things will be done by another method which is present inside an aspect. If you remember aspect means what? If you remember aspect oriented programming, AOP, inside aspect, which code we put inside aspect, always remember that thing, guys. Whenever you're gonna ask yourself a question, which code is our non-functional code? Which code? The which part will go to the aspect. Aspect means which, okay? So basically right now, this is my functional code. This is my business logic, but I do not want to start a transaction here. I do not want to write my commit code here. I don't want to dump those things inside this save product info method, because those are non-functional things. And though I want to separate this thing. So which thing I want to separate? The transactional thing. And that's why we will put those things inside an aspect. You remember point codes, and there are some around annotation, before annotation, after annotation, like which code you want to run before your method and after your method. You can put all those things inside an aspect class. So Spring is doing what? It is basically creating a method, okay, and it is just writing some code like this, where it will start the transaction, and then it will call your method, right? And then it will call this method from a proxy object. The proxy will call this method, and once the method will be done, it will be also make sure to commit the transaction and close the transaction. This will not make more sense to you guys right now, because you're going to be asking me, hey Abhilash, show me the thing, show me where the transaction is starting, show me where the transaction is committed, tell me how it is happening, okay, show me, so give me proof. I will be giving you a minute, just trying to give you some impression that right now the Spring AOP is involved, and the Spring AOP is actually calling the self product info right now through a proxy class. You can remember, you can think like there is some CGL proxy, or there is some AOP proxy, and this is only basically starting the transaction here, then calling your method, and after your method is done, it is committing the transaction and then closing the connection. And if the things will not go well, it will basically roll back the transaction if there is any exception will occur here. So right now, that's why you are seeing a bunch of information inside the error log, and now you can see aop.framework.cgl proxy. You can see see the call stack trace, right? The error has been thrown here, but it has not been directly thrown. It has went through something. You can see from where the client is calling this, it went into some proxy. Now it went into this line, it went into this line, and you can see there is some transaction interceptor. There is some interceptor which is intercepting your methods, and it is going through some AOP related thing, and then the error is getting thrown. We will go into this in depth, but I think this is going to make sense right now, that the transaction is getting managed, right? Whenever we are basically annotating the transactional annotation. Right now, if you're going to go to our database, and if you're going to do a run, come on man, there is no records here. That means that there has not been any record has been inserted to our class, because there is a runtime exception is getting thrown here in the middle of the method or in the middle of the insertion. So all the product which has been inserted before has been rolled back. Let me relaunch the application, or let me run this again for your behalf. Right click, run as Java application, and you can see right now again the things will not work, and all this product which has been saved will be rolled back. So right now, if I'm going to go back over here, do a run here, there are no records present right over here inside the table. So hopefully this is making sense. But one thing, guys, keep in your mind, the exception that you are throwing here, I've seen my people doing this mistake. So what they will do, okay, so if the exception will be thrown here, so maybe they will do what? They'll put this inside a try and catch block, because they know there will be some exception will be thrown. So they will come over here, and they will be a good developer, and they will try to write a try block right here. Maybe where my method, this is my try start, and my try should end here. And is followed by a catch block, and let's say they are handling the exception. Let's say e.print stack trace, okay, and now let's say they have handled the exception, Control A, Control Shift F. Now in this case, what will happen? Will the transaction work? Let's see what is going to happen. Do a right click, run as let's say relaunch the program, click on this relaunch button, relaunch your application. Now again, the 7 record has been inserted. Now some error has been occurred, okay, and we are printing the stack trace over here. But remember that we have handled the exception right here, right? Try and catch block we have written, and our exception code will, obviously our exception will be thrown over here, so it will come to the catch block. So let's see what is going to happen right now. If we're going to go to over here, do a run, and look at that, right? 7 records has been inserted, but your transactional method is still there. This is because you got to remember, because I know you'll be trying out this particular program, and I have seen, because you guys are habituated doing things like this and handling exceptions like this, so obviously in your day-to-day work you are habituated handling the exception. But if you are handling the exception, make sure that the transaction will not be rolled back, because in order to make the transaction rolled back, the exception need to be propagated out of this method. And if you are inside the method and you are handling the exception inside this, then the transaction will not roll back. Okay, this is one thing you got to remember. Point number one. Point number two, there is another thing, guys, here. Like, if I'll remove the catch block, okay, Control A, Control Shift S, Control S, remove one more over here, Control A, Control Shift F, Control S. Right here, one more thing. So right now, let me go over here and let me remove one of the record. Let me delete everything, do a apply, close, go back to your STS, and things are looking good. And now let me relaunch it. Obviously, nothing will be inserted because we are not handling the exception. If you're gonna go over here and do a run right now, things are not inserted. Remember one more thing. Instead of a runtime exception, if you're gonna throw a normal exception, okay, and in this case also things will not work. Whenever you're gonna be throwing a normal exception, let's say I'm gonna add throws to the declaration because this is a checked exception. Okay, normal exception means I'm talking about checked exception. Instead of an unchecked exception, if you are throwing a checked exception like this, and if you are going to the app.java and handling the step product, because right now it is throwing some exception. And now if you're going to go back to the application, the main application, and right now you see that there is no record here. And now I'm going to run this application, and inside the step product info, there is some exception will be thrown. So what we will assume that inside here we have a transactional annotation, so the thing should be reverted back and the roll back. But this will not happen because this is a checked exception. Okay, now if you're going to relaunch your application, okay, you can see 7 product has been inserted, then some error has been occurred, but this is a exception, not a runtime exception. Now if you're going to go over here into your database, and if you're going to be running this, and you can see 7 records has been inserted, because the default feature of the transaction that we have on Spring, it only rolls back the unchecked exception, not the checked exceptions. But you can actually revert back this, you can, let's say you have a need that you need to throw some checked exception. In that case, you have a lot of different properties that you can control for. Like if I'll write rollback, you can see rollbackFor, noRollbackFor. So you can use this property to control. Let's say I don't want to roll back for something, or I do not want to roll back for some other classes. I can specify those things over here. So let's say I'll say rollbackFor, I want to roll back for any kind of exception is happening. So exception.class. Right now I want the code to be rolled back if there is any exception is happening with this, right? And now if you're gonna see, if I'll go back and remove this previous product, because previously we do not have the rollbackFor defined right there. So I'll do close. If I'll go over here, and if I'll do right click, if I'll relaunch the application, right now you'll see there will not be any code will be committed, even though I'm throwing a checked exception, because I am writing this property right here inside the transactional annotation. So I'll go over here to the database and do a run, and this time you'll see there is no record has been inserted here, right? I will show you another thing. As I have told you here, if it is a runtime exception, if it is a runtime exception, then things should be rolled back, right? But I don't want that to be happen. Okay, I don't want that Spring default feature to be happen. I can write here noRollbackFor, and I can just write runtime exception dot class, right? And this time you'll see I think the rollback will not happen even though there is a exception is getting triggered. And just to confirm, go to the database, see there is no data over here so far. So you'll go back to your STS one more time, do a right click, click over here to the relaunch button, and there is some exception is occurring, and 7 record has been inserted, but the things to be rolled back because we are using a runtime exception is getting thrown between our method, but we have defined this property. I think the rollback will not happen, and there you go. You can see the products over here. Okay, so now what is basically happening over here? I think you can understand the default thing that Spring is doing. So for now, I can just remove simply this particular thing. Okay, so what is the takeaway that we are taking from the lesson that we have done today? Because we have just done the setup. Few things to remember here. We did annotated our class. Sorry, I got something on my screen. We did annotated our config class with a @enable transaction management annotation to enable the transaction management. We have defined our transaction manager here and injected the data source property to this. The next thing that we have done here is that we have marked our service classes with @transactional annotation, and make sure that you can also mark this @transactional on top of the class, and in that case all the methods that you have inside the service method will fall inside the transaction. But I'm gonna make it right over here for now, and I will come back to that particular point later. Okay, so when we are marking a class with marking a method with @transactional annotation, as I have told you, this method will be proxied. That means another method will call this method, and that method which will call this method will be inside a proxy class. Okay, and the first thing here is that whenever you are writing @transactional like this, that means there are some default properties getting set. For an example, the propagation here, there is a method, there is an attribute here called propagation. So propagation is by default set to, you can see there are a lot of different things like mandatory, nested, never, not supported, required new, supports. We'll be talking about all these things, but the default one I think is this one. So you can see supports a current transaction, create a new one if none exist. Okay, so what do you mean by this requires? This is the default one. So what do you mean by this? So this means, so this is, even though you are not writing this, okay, the default propagation label is this one. Now what is the propagation? Propagation means when this method, say product info, will call another method, let's say product info here. You can see we also have a @transactional annotation over here. If you are writing a @transactional annotation over here, what is the default propagation? As I said, it is required. Right? The default propagation label is required like this. Propagation and is required. All right. So what will happen whenever you're going to do this? So this means if you go to the service method one more time, here we are starting the transaction. That means the transaction will start here. The transaction manager will start the transaction here. And then once you start the transaction, obviously the connection will be created. So here, imagine there is a new connection is getting created, like, we have a connection over here. So we are inside which method? One second, please. I need to go to the service. Okay, I'm inside the service, right? This is my service method. Can I do a Control-Shift-Z? Okay. So right now, I just want to tell you one thing. Now see, this is my service method, which got the transactional annotation and the propagation is required. So that means when the transaction will be started, okay, the transaction will start here, imagine, okay, and now the transaction has already been started here. So now there are some code which will be executed, and there is a save product method. Now this method will be called from this method, and remember that this method is already having a transaction created. Already there is a transaction is already created and is maintaining a transaction. Now the save product method is also having a transactional annotation, and it's also got the required as a propagation over here. So what it does mean that the required will see if there is an active transaction is already there. And in this case, whether we have an active transaction, yes, we do have, because as I have told you, this method got a transactional annotation. So the transaction will start here. So this method is only calling this method, save product method, and now the save product method will check whether the transaction is already created. and in this case it's already created. So the required will use the same transaction which has already been created by the service method. Okay, the service method has already created a transaction right here, and now this repo, where is this repo, this will use the same transaction and it will not create any new transaction here. Okay, and all this method that you are seeing, all this code along with all this code here, it will execute this code, it will save some product. So every time it's going to do all the operation, this operation plus whatever we have inside this, all these things will fall under one transaction only, because the propagation label is required. Okay, required means if there is no transaction created, the propagation required will create a new transaction. Obviously, when the save product method is getting called by the app.java, right here we are calling the save product info method. So in this point of time there is no transaction created. When this method will be invoked, well, there is a transactional annotation. It will start and create a new transaction, and then all this code will fall under that transaction. And when the save product method will be called, the same propagation label required is there. So already a transaction already started by the service method right here, this method. So the repo will not create a new transaction, instead use the same transaction created by the service, will execute the code, and once everything will be done, as this method has started the transaction, right here it will do a commit and close the connection as well. So everything under whatever we got over here will fall under one transaction only. Okay, hopefully this is making sense. And the reason I told you, if you already have a method, service method, and already got a transactional over here, you don't need to write another transactional annotation over here, because anyhow the service will call this method and everything will fall under one transaction only. But this is one of the most common use cases. There are also things like I can write here, I can write a transactional propagation required, and inside the repo method where I'm doing the database stuff, here I will do one thing. Instead of required, I will do requires new. Then what will happen? Okay, now how many transactions will be created? And requires new always create a new transaction. And these are the things that we'll be learning in the next class. There are different things like requires new, nested, never supported, supports, and there are a lot of things we'll be learning. And not only I'll be talking in verbally. In the next class, what we will be doing, we'll try to execute, we'll try to bring in some aspect-oriented programming, and we'll try to see how the connection is getting created. How is actually the transaction is getting created from this method? How can you trust me on this? Maybe I can speak rubbish here, right? I'm not a Spring expert. I'm only coding and assuming things. So instead of assuming, what we will do, we'll try to write some code, and we'll try to see whether this particular method here is actually creating a transaction, and whether this particular method here, after the things are done, is it actually committing the transaction? Is it actually making the rollback when there is some exception is happening? Is it actually making sure that the connection is actually getting closed, so there is no connection leak will happen in future? All these things we'll explore in the next session. Hopefully you guys are excited. So I'll see you in the next session. Now you guys can ask questions if you guys have any. Yes, please.
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes, Srinivas.
Like last time, I think what I remember, I don't know whether I'm correct or not. Please correct me. Like when we say register shutdown hook method, automatically if the context is not closed, that is closed by the JVM.
Correct.
Right, sir?
Correct. So basically,
but again, what is the need of using context.close again, sir, after the shutdown hook?
Context.close after okay. So I think you don't need to write the context.close, I believe.
That is what I
Yeah,
have.
there is no need to write that because the JVM will when the JVM will shut down,
Automatically.
automatically the things will be done. But yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
just
that's it.
I'm just writing it, just to make things visible. But I think it's not needed because the register shutdown hook does it, I believe.
That's what you told me
Yes,
last time,
yes,
sir.
yes,
That's
yes.
where I
Okay.
had a confusion.
Okay.
Thank you
So
so much.
that's the thing. But the register shutdown hook is not required for the web application, isn't it? Because whenever the dispatcher
Correct, sir.
servlet will be
Automatically, context is opened and closed automatically.
correct by the dispatcher servlet. Okay.
Web application context. Right.
By the web application context. Perfect. Yes. So there you go. So that's it. Any other questions on the transaction? Guys, did I mess it up? Because I feel a little disturbed when some musics were playing around me. I don't know. So is it like, are you hearing any music from my end? Or
We are not hearing, sir. For us, it is very much clear.
for me, it's just, all music
Yeah,
around me.
we
Maybe,
understand.
but my microphone should not be filtering it because this microphone does catch even it does catch my breathe, does catch all of the things what I don't like if I'll do click on something, my AC, my remote, my mobile, everything this particular microphone will catch. So I hate it for some reason, but just using it because obviously it's good. The sound clarity is good. But yeah, this microphone need to be there for a very closed room. Obviously I'm inside a closed room, but there is still noise. We'll see during the editing. But yeah.
I just lost for a minute. I just want to confirm one thing. So if our repository class has some method and it has a transactional annotation over that method, and we are using that repository class method in somewhere else, and that method we are also wrapping under add transactional, like the example which you have shown. So it will not work, right?
It will work. Why it will not work? So in
No. Like transaction. If you can come to this product service.
1 second.
I'm talking about the default nature.
Okay.
Suppose we on line number 18 we have add transaction.
Correct.
And line number 27, this method itself has add transactional.
Okay.
So if something goes bad, all the data which has been committed by this method, will not roll back, right? That's what I want to know.
It will roll back. It will roll back. Why? Because they will fall under one transaction only. But in this case, it will not be done. Don't see the propagation label. Now, if the code is like this, it will be rolled back, Prashant.
It will be rolled back.
Okay. Because Prashant, now you can think right here, we are starting the transaction, correct? Right here. Yes. And now this is going to create a new transaction, as I have told you, because it is required. And in this point, by the time this method calls, there was no transaction because my client called this particular method and there was no transaction, right? And by the time this method created, we have started a transaction. And right here, inside the save product method, let's say we have the same transaction. That means it will not create a new transaction. It will acquire the same transaction which has already been created by the service method. So the service only managing this one. There is something going wrong over here. Well, the exception will be thrown and everything already done by service is also going to be rolled back. Okay. So, but this is only for the required propagation. There are also some other propagation label. And that's what we'll be discussing. Maybe maybe I just messed it up. Maybe
no. You were right. I just
no, Prashant. I should not be talking about those things, but I'm not explaining. But yeah, tomorrow is gonna make more sense, Prashant, because we'll go a little more in depth. Okay, do practice that invocation handler stuff that we have learned in the last session. Okay, this is gonna help you. This is gonna help you too much in the next session because we're gonna start doing some advanced stuff here. Perfect. Cool. So if that's yes,
Abhilash, thank you so much for taking this very transactional for us, Abhilash.
No, Lavanya, that's fine. Actually, I don't want to ask you something, but I haven't done.
It is very helpful for all of us.
Yeah.
And one question, Abhilash, we have not used @enable transaction management, right, in our configuration. So is it not necessary to use it? So what I was thinking is But this to make the transaction to work in our project,
Correct.
to activate the transaction manager.
Correct.
So I thought we have to use other transaction
You have
enable
to.
transaction.
You have to. If you're gonna comment it, this is not going to
Oh,
work. You remember, Lavanya,
okay.
all the Hibernate validator and everything will work only if you're gonna
With
write enable web MVC. I don't have the web MVC jar, but only when you write enable web MVC, then only the validation and the things will work. Just like that, if you want to make the transaction management work, you need to make sure that you are writing this one. And also here we got a lot of different things like proxy, target proxy
Yes,
class, and we can write these things, but I will not be getting into this. Make sure you are not only defining the bin here, you are also mentioning this enable a transaction management right here as well. Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll go in depth, Lavanya. Maybe what I'm thinking, doesn't matter like how many days it take, but let's just go for it for 4-5 days, and let's try to cover it in depth, right? Because we have already started it, so I don't think we'll come back again and we'll start learning about something that I have skipped, because the batch will be over and we'll be starting the microservices part of it. So we'll make sure that whatever the leftover we have, we are completing, and then we are going for the Spring Cloud maybe from the next month. Okay, so yeah. Perfect. Yeah. All right.
I have one question related to this JPA query. Queries. Like, can I ask in this session?
Prashant, but let me stop the recording because this will be irrelevant. Okay.
Yes.
So let me stop sharing and stop recording.
Recording stopped.
And also let me stop the recording from here. Alright guys, so we are right now all set and we are ready to dive deeper. So we will be understanding the propagation label in detail. So if you have seen the last 10-15 minutes of stuff and which didn't make much of sense to you, and that is absolutely fine, because in the next session we'll be starting with the transaction propagation, and the next session will be completely dedicated to transactional propagation. So get ready, do this hands-on, make your setup ready, and I'll see you in the next video with some much more clean and neat content. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, bye bye, take care, and happy coding.